Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Edulastic for Math webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started since it's 1:30 p.m. I see some more people are trickling in, so welcome to those of you who are just joining us. We have three really awesome presenters online today. Tracy Cooper, Allison Cox, and Latasha Rowland are all going to be sharing how they use Edulastic with their math students. So thanks in advance to Tracy, Allison, and Latasha for your great presentations. Also on the line today are my colleagues Ileana Betancourt and Mike Holden. These are my colleagues from Edulastic, and they're going to be helping to answer questions and monitor the chat and make sure that when you leave here today, all of your questions are answered. So once again, thanks for being here, and we'll go ahead and get started. So before I pass things off to our presenters, there are just a few housekeeping things for me to go over. The first, I see everybody is already testing out the chat, but let's continue to do so. We want this to be a really collaborative event. So if everybody could share in the chat where you're tuning in from and what your role is in education. I see somebody from Malaysia, and earlier I saw somebody from Egypt, South Carolina high school math teacher, Utah 6th grade, awesome, LA, very cool. Wow, so many people. I just saw Canada, lots of LA, Mexico, amazing. Wow, so many people. Thank you everybody for being here today. That's really great. I just saw Jamaica, lots of international folks as well. That's great. So continue to use the chat. We want you to get to know one another, collaborate, or add any insight that you may have. My next point on here is about a poll that I launched a little bit ago, and it looks like 92% of you have voted, so thank you. If you have not voted in the poll, please do so now. This helps us understand how familiar you are with Edulastic and also what your role is in education. And this helps us kind of know what kind of questions are coming our way so that we are best able to support you throughout today's event. Lastly, that's a good segue into my last bullet point here, which is about questions. If you have an official question during today's webinar, please put it into the Q&A bubble that you see at the bottom of your Zoom screen. This way, myself or my colleagues, Ileana and Mike, or any of our presenters will type an answer back to you, or we will get to them during our designated Q&A time at the end of the hour. All right, so based on the poll that you all took, it looks like we have some brand new people to Edulastic and some people who have only used Edulastic for a few months. So welcome and thank you for joining today's event. I did want to say that today's webinar will not necessarily focus on those brand new features and just getting started with Edulastic features. If you are looking for that kind of introductory walkthrough, I encourage you to check out this Edulastic 101 training, which can be found on our Edulastic YouTube channel. And Ileana can share the link to that in the chat. All right, this is a really exciting part of today's webinar. We are giving away a subscription, or actually two subscriptions, to Spark Math. And Spark Math is brand new to Edulastic. This is really just being announced this week and into next week. And by being here live, you all are automatically entered to win. And for every 100 people that are here, one subscription will be given. We have almost 200 people here, so we might actually be giving 2, if not 3 subscriptions. So that's awesome. And we will be announcing the winner to this at the end. You're probably wondering, what is Spark Math? Like I said, it's brand new to Edulastic, so I myself am still exploring it, but it's curriculum-aligned, differentiated practice within Edulastic. And Spark Math will automatically recommend review, practice, or challenge work for your students based on how they did on previous quizzes or tests. So it's really high tech and really cool. And from what I have explored of it, it's pretty amazing. So we're looking forward to giving away 2 subscriptions to this at the end of the webinar. Alrighty, so in February, we have 2 Spark Math info sessions. Like I said, we are just launching this. It's very exciting, and I wanted to let you all to be the first to know of these info sessions. So we have one on February 17th and one on February 23rd. And Ileana can share the link to register for those in the chat. Okay. At this time, I'm going to introduce our first panelist. So Tracy Cooper, go ahead and turn on your audio and video, and I will introduce you now. So Tracy is a middle school math teacher and math department chair in Georgia. Today, she will be talking about 2 things. First, she's going to be talking about Snap Quiz and the benefits of using Snap Quiz with math students. Second, she'll be talking about dynamic questions in Edulastic. We're really excited to hear all that she has to share. So go ahead and take it away, Tracy.
Hi. Glad to be here, glad to see everybody here, and I'm honored to be on today to show what I have been learning about Edulastic in the past 2 years. All right, go ahead, Jan, if you can go ahead to the first slide. So one of the things in Edulastic is a module called Snap Quiz, and this gives you the opportunity to upload your own documents. And Edulastic has a plethora of questionings already built in. So right now, quiz is if you want to use your own questions, or let's say you buy stuff on Teachers Pays Teachers. I use that for just that purpose. If I buy task cards or scavenger hunts, or if I have a study guide, worksheets, especially now with virtual learning and students distance learning and having to do so much using technology, it helps me with grading. Everything auto saves as they do it. Students, they can auto save their work. They don't have to hit save. Edulastic saves for them, and then I get the data on that. All right, go ahead and move to the next slide. So how to create a snap quiz. Okay, just the basics. You upload a PDF, you enter the information, add answer options, select evaluation settings, review, check settings, and then share. So that's just a very brief overview. We will be sharing these slides with you at the end of the presentation, and I have some tiny URLs there which will direct you to some slides that I have created to show you this step by step. I will go ahead and share my screen and kind of walk through some of that to give you an overview of what it really looks like. Jan, can you give me permission to share?
Yeah, I just stopped sharing. You should be able to
Okay.
go for it now. Thank you, Tracy.
All right. Thank you. All right, so these are the slides that I have created, and these will all be available to you. But the basics is you start in the test and you say new test. And you just go through the process, you upload a PDF, and then you can select either from Google Drive or from your hard drive, you can select the file. Once you bring it up, you fill in those titles and descriptions. You fill in your grade level, and a lot of this stuff comes preloaded in Edulastic. You just hit the little grade 8 and it'll come up. Then the tags, you can make your own tags. This little picture button, you can just put your own picture on so that when it shares with your students, they see the image that you shared with them. The next step is you go into the worksheet tab, and that's where you start assigning the questions. So it's going to open really large, and this is just going to be a thing that you have to play with. You shrink it down with these arrows here. And then you have to open up with the thumbnails. You click that and it'll open up each of the thumbnails so that you can get to the questions for the kids. And at that point, then you start giving the questions answer choices. And so when you start out, there's nothing over here. So you have to select the type of question that you want. And there's this whole list of question types that you can select. So for a question like this, I selected a math type question to where they were putting in fractions. And then once you're finished putting all your questions in, then you have all these evaluation setting options. So you can have it pop up to make it give a calculator. You can have it have an intermediate calculator, basic without numbers. So you can set, you have so many tools at your fingertips to set up as you're doing this. And then you set up the correct answer. And if you set it up in with the basic calculator, like with a fraction, it'll pop up to where they have fraction boxes to place in it. And so you have all of these different change setting buttons that you can use. And like I said, I'll share out these slides when we're done. I just wanted to go through them real quick, and then I'll go through what I've created. There's more evaluation settings under the miscellaneous tab, where if you're doing, say, inequality, you would click this and it would check answers backwards to make sure that if they type it in wrong, if they type the answer in backwards, then it would still count it correctly. And then I can put these extra little things. So at the top, you have a toolbar at the top of your screen. And so there's a little picture and there's a little comment. And so you can, on the slides themselves, you can insert comments and images so that if you wanted to show the students how it was going to be formatted or give them a hint, you could insert those on the actual slides themselves. You can limit to numbers only. So if you don't want them to answer a question like X equals 5, you can say, okay, I don't want to pull up a calculator. I want to give them a numbers only option to where they can't put X equals 5, and then I have to give all these different variations of the answer. And so when I say this is powerful, you know, Edulastic, it has so many features that you can select. There's a lot of times that when I pull it up and the multiple choice doesn't work because the multiple choice is just A, B, C, or D. And if you don't have those set up on your document, then you can't just use those. So at that point, you'd use a question drop down, and then you're making your own multiple choices. And then, but when you're finished with all your questions, you need to go to the review tab, and that's where they pop up like this. And you would go in and you test every answer to make sure that it works before you push it out to your students. Before you submit to your students or give it to them, you have all the additional settings that you can give them multiple times to attempt it. So if you know that it's going to be a difficult task, you can set it up automatically where they get 2 or 3 attempts to redo it. You can have it manually or automatically grade. You can have it go out to them with scores, without scores. You can have it showing with the answers, without the answers. So it has many options of how it grades and shows the students. You can set it on safe browser mode if you're actually using it as a test and you don't want them straying onto other sites. You can have the calculator type, as I mentioned before, and there's another option for you can have them answer on paper. One of the other things that I love about this is that there is an automatic, and it's not shown on here, but there's an automatic drawing tool. So when the students are working out a problem, if you set it on for them, they can draw on their screen with their mouse, and which that's really great for when they're doing graphs. So the last thing you do is share, save, publish, and assign. And so if you hit the publish, then it'll publish it or save it without assigning it. And then the assign button will do everything in one step. These will be shared. So what I'll do is I'll go into Edulastic now and kind of show you what I have created and some examples. The one thing my students, the reason they like this is when they're in my class, and I'll put this on present mode so you won't see their names. This is one of them that I created, and the data that I get, I can see per question how they do, right and wrong, how long average time it took them to do that question. And then if it is a question where they're having to calculate and type an answer, I'll pull this up on the board for them and let them watch their progress. And if it's multiple choice, I don't usually show them this because I know they can easily just keep clicking until they get it green. So I don't do that for multiple choice or true, false or anything. But if it's one where they're having to actually perform a calculation, I'll pull this up, and it eliminates me having to go to all of them and say, is this right? Is this right? Because they can just look on the screen and see if they have their questions right or wrong. And this is one of the ones that I created. And if I go and look at it, I can pull up the actual assignment. Let me go to the actual test. So when I'm going to the library, I look at the library authored by me, and I can see the different ones that I've created. So I created these from task cards, and this is one that we did today from task cards. And this was the one I showed a moment ago. So the one today just had basic answers, and the one I did here, this is actually the view that then you would see when you're working. So this is what I was talking about. So I can hit the arrow here to open these up, and then I can come down here. And so on these type buttons, on these type questions, the students have to be able to solve the proportion, And then in box 6, they have to actually give me an answer numerically. So I don't mind showing them a screen, because if they don't get it right, they know that they have to calculate the correct answer. Okay, so it's not a multiple choice. They're having to actually do the math to get their answer. So that's why I like being able to share them some of those type of problems so that they can check their own work as we go. All right, I'm going to move on now to our next feature, which was our dynamic questioning. That one's a little more detailed than the SNAP quiz. So in dynamic questioning, and let me pull up, Jan, can you share your screen again one moment? Do I have to click stop sharing?
Yeah, I can share my screen right now.
Okay, and then we'll flip over to the next slide.
Are you able to see?
Yes. So on dynamic questions, this is where we get into even more detail than in the SNAP quiz, where you're uploading a document that you already have, or even just simple questions you already have. In dynamic questioning, you are creating that question from beginning to end with formulas, and this gets really detailed, but it is so powerful. You can do so many things with it. We had some recently was doing volume in 8th grade math, and I didn't want the kids to have the exact same questions, because then I knew they would just be working and cheating off of each other. So I was like, how can I provide them new questions to where everybody has something different? And then if they work together, that's fine, because they still are getting a different answer because they have different questions. And this particular item, obviously, I had to build some formulas. So I'll show you that. And once again, I created a document that kind of goes step by step to show you how I built mine. And then I'll walk you through that real quick. All right, Jan, I'm going to share my screen again.
Sounds good. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. All right, for the, oops, wrong one. So for the dynamic questions, you have to use @ symbols. So it's all based on formulas. So when I'm building a question like this is how it looks to me. I put @D, @H, and that tells the program that every number for diameter and every number for height will be different for each student that gets the question. And then the answer is @V. So that's what they're going to be typing in. They won't type in @V. That's part of the formula that I'm building, that's the volume. And then they go down, and when you're in there programming it, you have your D, your H, and your V. And so I set a minimum value and a maximum value, and then the decimal places. So I wanted only whole numbers, and I set the diameter 1 to 25 and height 1 to 15. And then that formula I built here. So this is what Edulastic knows what to do. So Edulastic knows that the student will put their answer in the box, and here's how that expected value should be based on the formula that I typed in. So the students never see all of this behind the scenes work, but it does take some setting up and getting used to. So you're going to have to play with it and make sure. So I've got these step-by-step instructions that you can use in order to build that. And I'll show you where that was in my data bank. I'll show you one of the ones that I had created for that. And this was because, and I played with this during Christmas to get this brought up, because we were wanting to give more question types than what I could find on just the Edulastic's basic questioning. I wanted a little bit more detail. So you can see I used a couple of questions that were already there, and then I started building my own questions here. And this was one of the questions. Let's see, that one wasn't it. And so I pulled up images, and some of them, they don't have images. It just has the value for the diameter, value for the height, and they calculate and put their answer. And on some of these, you can even put videos. So I embedded some videos from like Khan Academy in here for their hints. So if they couldn't remember how to solve that problem, it would link them to a video to Khan Academy on how to solve it. And here I created some images of a cone and put the values in there. And this is all dynamic. So each student would have different variation of numbers here. So they could work together, but they would have to know how to solve it to get the answer. And this was just to give them additional practice on the skill. Let me go back to the details of that. So in the student's view, they don't see all the details. They just see a clean version of all of the questions. But it does definitely, it takes a little time getting used to doing the setting up these problems, and you have to use the @ symbol in front of every one of the formulas that you're building. So as you can see here, I said find the volume of a sphere with the radius of, and then it's the @r. It's going to pull in different variations of numbers for the radius, and then they have to give the answer for the volume. And then the ones with diameter, they have to know that they have to find half the diameter to get to the radius. If they're given the formula, but they still have to know they have to find half of that diameter to get to the radius to solve it. All right, I think that's about all, unless anybody later has any questions. I'll have these attached so that anybody has any questions, they've got step by step, because I know with the time limit, I can't really go through full detail on how to do it and step by step.
Thank you, Tracy. That was amazing. You have some great compliments coming in through the chat as well. Some people are like, wow, mind blown by dynamic parameters. So thank you so much for, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and take back over screen sharing.
Okay.
Okay, and at this time, I'm going to introduce our next panelists. So if Allison, do you want to turn on your video and your microphone? I will introduce you now.
Hi, everyone.
Allison Cox is a math and computer science teacher from Arkansas. Today, she'll be talking about navigating the test bank in Edulastic to find the best math questions. Go ahead and take it away, Allison. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And thank you all for taking the time out of your busy days. I know how crazy it's been this year. So I'm like very thankful to have so many teachers investing in their classrooms and their kids. And so it just inspires me. I love it so much. And Miss Tracy has like totally blown my mind. I'm like ready to go play with some items. I'm like, oh, I have to add that to my notes for later. What I would like to start off with, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I like to start with why are we doing this right now? So why this, why now? I feel like this year I've been a duck. I totally look calm on top of the water when I'm in my classroom, but I'm swimming like crazy underneath. It's just a crazy year. And so I'm all about saving time and using my resources to make sure I am maximizing my efficiency in my classroom. So I have time for my kids at home. So I hope that you all are here for the same reasons. You can go ahead and go to the next one. So the same thing, just saving time, utilizing what resources you have in front of you, digitizing your content, innovating your classroom, etc. This year was the year I had to take all of my content and really put it online because we have that virtual option for our kids. And so I just wanted to make sure that what's going on in my classroom is equal to what's going on outside of my classroom, trying to create equity in our education system. So in doing so, I tried to search for really rigorous content online and realized Edulastic has been my best program for all of my kids and for making sure I have test security, making sure that my kids are getting those dynamic questions that are related to what we're doing and are rigorous enough to meet the standards for our standardized testing. So just the test bank basics, the first thing that you want to do is get into your dashboard and then select the test bank, and that is shown here, so you'll be able to play with it in your slideshow. And then in the test bank, you have two options. So you can either search in the box that asks for specific questions. So if you're looking for questions about triangles, in that search box, you could type in triangles. So that's like for specific items. Or if you want like a new test, you can create your own test given the items that already exist online. So if I typed in triangles in that red box for the search system, then I would get all of the tests that already exist that talk about triangles. If I wanted to create my own, given the items that are available, I would create a new test. And I would say my focus today is on creating a new test rather than using the ones that exist, although there are some amazing tests out there that you can clone and beg, borrow, and steal from. So the first thing that you're going to do when you select new test, it's going to take you to select either Snap Quiz, which is what we just talked about, or it's going to take you to create your own test. So you want to go through and give all of the descriptions to identify your test later. So what grade, how you want to name it, what subject, and that will automatically tag certain items when you go on to create your test. So when you go to add items, you have so many options. You can actually go to the next slide, sorry. So you have so many, I think it's repeating. Are you getting the same thing? If not, I can totally go to the next one. I'm so sorry.
I think we're good now.
Here we are. Sorry.
Allison.
I have to back out some of the slides. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so in this space, this is where you can type in specific topics that you might want to search. So I put in congruent triangles. I'm a geometry teacher, and I just went through and tried to see what questions were available to me just in the item bank if I searched with no other parameters. And I realized, hey, I want to be more specific than just congruent triangles. So you can also search over to the left-hand side. You'll notice that there are also the options for, I can pick authored by me. So if I've created questions in the past, if I want to select different grade levels or a grade specific question, I can do that. You can also select the subject. So if I wanted to have a math question, which is what we're talking about, right? So I would select math. From the standard set, they have so many different standard sets, and I want to applaud Edulastic because you have added so many over the years that I am just like blown away with how many standard sets you've added. Common Core is normally the one that I stick with, but there are so many ways that you can specify it to your state, your region, your test, however you want to specify it. You can also select a specific question type. So if you want just multiple choice, or you want multiple select, or you want some of those dynamic questions, you can select that. Depth of knowledge, our particular standardized test has like a mix of difficulty. So you also have that option to search for. And then you have collections, which is my personal favorite. I absolutely love the collections that exist. You can have some that you've collaborated with within your school, within your district, but you also have some amazing ones that were created from Engage New York, and they're Edulastic certified, which means they've gone through the process of making sure that they are rigorous and they are correct. So I typically use the Edulastic specific ones. And then you can go on and click to the next slide. Unless we're already there. Are we already there? I think it might just repeat. Is it doing it again? Okay, no, it isn't. All right. So then I created my test, and you'll see that I've gone now to the review tab, just like Miss Tracy was talking about earlier. You can go through, you can rearrange your questions after you've selected them. You can also preview the items, you can test them, you can change their amount of points here. And then once you've decided the order, you can click on settings. And for that specific test, I don't want to repeat everything that Miss Tracy said, but there are some really great test settings that you can utilize when you're doing distance learning. If you have kids in your classroom that you want to make sure that you are meeting certain accommodations for them, these test settings have just like, they have gotten so much better over the years, and I absolutely love utilizing them. There's something you kind of have to play with and learn over time. So I would take a step and try one on your next test and see if you like it. The great news is you can update it. So if you give a test to one class and you don't like the way it's set, you can go into settings and change some of the stuff. Some of it is locked permanently after you assign it, but some of it you can change while it's actually live. So that has been an awesome feature to have, especially during distance learning when everything's just kind of ebb and flow and you're getting everything thrown at you at different times. So the monitor and adjust part is great when you have these test settings. You can go to the next slide, Ms. June. Thank you. And then here, my helpful hints that I would just take away is like beg, borrow, and steal. Like we are all educators. We are all trying to help each other. Edulastic has a bank of tons of questions that have been created by test creators, by states, by tons of really excellent teachers out there. So use that. Don't feel like you have to create every single question, every single test on your own. You can also have your kids create questions. That's been one of my favorite things to do this year, is kind of get them to tell me what kind of questions they want to see and help them, or have them help me create questions. The assessment settings have really helped me with classroom management. I have, tons of accommodations that I have to reach. And so it's really helped me having like the time setting, having a due date, all of that, where kids are having to manage their time and put it into a planner. Take the time to play. I've been on Edulastic for years, and I am learning something every day. Like I'm going to go play with the dynamic questioning when I get off of here. So always take the time to just play with the features, collaborate with teachers, find somebody on here and connect with them. And that snap quiz feature, Ms. Tracy, that has been my new favorite thing, because now I can actually utilize things from Teachers Pay Teachers, and I can make a worksheet digital in like less than 5 minutes. So if you have not played with snap quiz, I'm going to tell you, you need to do it today. Like it is going to save your life. And you are done. Go play.
Thank you so much, Allison. That was awesome. And I love your helpful tips at the end there. Really, really great. And yeah, all your tips for navigating the test bank were just wonderful. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'm going to introduce our third presenter. So Latasha, go ahead and turn on your camera and turn on your microphone, and I will introduce you now. So Latasha is a 5th grade math teacher from Missouri. She's presented on Edulastic in the math class before and has always done a really great job. So we're really excited to have her back today. Today, she'll be talking about the playlist feature in Edulastic, which is pretty new. And so I think there's some pretty advanced and cool stuff that you can do with it. Go ahead and take it away, Latasha.
All right, I need to share my screen. 1 second.
Yeah.
There it is. Cool. Quick shout out. I saw somebody that said they teach at PG CPS. I am a product of Prince George's County School, born and raised, all K through 12. So I don't know if that person's still out there, but I am definitely loving that. That's a little taste of home. I'm currently in Kansas City, Missouri. And I saw some people saying that, is this all for upper grades? I guess I'll be filling in the elementary spot today, as I teach 5th grade math. I don't teach all subjects, but I teach 5th grade math. Edulastic added this cool tool this summer with the update and everything with playlists. And I'm a huge fan of playlists because I love to do blended learning activities in my classroom. And so when I saw this, I immediately was chopping at the bit to get to it this summer. It took me a minute to get used to it, but I figured out a simplistic way just to begin the basics of navigating it. So I hope you get and learn something out of it. So I always start with the why, the what, and the how. Why should you add it to your instructional toolkit? What are the playlists on Edulastic, and how? I'm going to take a little bit of time to show you just a simple way just to create them for your students. So first, starting with the why. Oh, went too far. The why. Playlists are an excellent component if you're doing blended learning. I know with the whole virtual learning, it's great for asynchronous and synchronous learning. I've done a lot of more of a workshop style model within my classroom. So I've been playing around with playlists with my students, and it's nice for them to get those at-bats to practice. Like my students are 5th grade. This is probably their 2nd or 3rd time taking assessments on the computer. So this is a very good opportunity for them to get those at-bats that provide perfect practice. And then it gives not only you, but your students real-time data prior to the assessment, so you can adjust course. So those are 3 reasons why playlists are effective. I pulled this directly from the attachment to how to create playlists for Edulastic. I was trying to find out a way to explain it. It really is just that. Like if you use the playlist or a choice board, something to that effect, and you've created one from scratch, it is very similar to that. The only difference is Edulastic has a cool system and things that you can put towards it that takes a traditional playlist and it expounds about it. And I've seen some interesting ones within the library where people have literally put the whole English unit, and they'll have all the worksheets or assignments, then they'll have the quiz. So like it's an ongoing thing that the students use directly within Edulastic. So that leads me to the how use playlist. Like I said, the biggest two reasons is asynchronous tasks prior to the exam assessment, and then practice. Like those are the two ways I've been using it right now as class time and homework. Like my kids have been working on some this week. And that's essentially how I've been using them. And so I start off by, I do game boards because of the virtual thing. We taught virtual for a while. I create game boards and choice boards for my kids. And so they go throughout the game board. So Edulastic is one of my spots on the game board. So my kids go there. And then next, it takes them to our Google Classroom where I spell out what you have to do for the playlist. I just like to spell everything out, and I link it directly to this, so they can click on the link and they get to the app. This year, our district purchased a copy of Edulastic, so I don't have to go rogue this year doing it. So when my kids log in, this is what they see on their portal. That's another cool feature that Edulastic added, where you can actually get a student view, which is fairly dope, because before I had to stand behind kids to see what they were seeing from the teacher view. And so these are the three tasks that I put in. And just like Tracy said, and Allison said, I've been using Snap Quiz and just different quizzes I've created within Edulastic to add to the playlist feature. So essentially, like, I'm going very quick. The biggest thing is like how to build it. Like it took me 3 months to figure this out, and I really just nailed it down. This is really 3 simple steps. It's trial and error. The first thing is just build your assessment before you add the playlist. That's huge. I didn't know that, and I butchered a bunch of stuff several times. But if you want to use a pre-done assessment, or you want to add a quiz questions that's already added within Edulastic, get those selected first, clone it, modify it to how you want it, or build yours first. Don't assign it, just publish it. That's all you need to do is publish it. That's it. Once you have those things set up, then next you're going to create your modules. You're going to go to playlist. I'm going to show you a short video of what I did with my playlist. You're going to go to that module and then begin to create your module and and add your assessments to it. The last thing is, once you're done, you're going to assign your playlist or just your modules. You don't have to assign the whole playlist. You can literally assign modules at a time. So that's what I'm working with right now, because I'm building as I go. So instead of me talking through it, I just created a little short video. It's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds of me showing you how I've added things to the playlist, or how I created my playlist. All right, you will have access to the video. I've linked it. It's right now it's a YouTube video, so you will have access if you can see it clear. So I just want to give you some quick tips to that. The best thing about this playlist, and like I said, I can't say enough about this feature. It is extremely dope. Be creative. It literally took me months to think outside the box. I can show you real quick. I created questions by inserting little videos and questions, and then adding questions down. I've used the Snap Quiz feature to do the worksheet function. It saved me, Allison said, tons and hours of creating fillable PDFs. I really had to just think outside the box and not keeping it scripted. Start small. That's the biggest thing. Like I said, it took me months to figure this out. Start small. Rome wasn't built in a day. All create your assessments before. Again, I cannot stress that enough. Create the things you want to add to your playlist before. And I love the fact that you can add as you go. The stuff that I just showed you is me just adding the next set of modules for my kids to take. And the great thing about the playlist is that it gives you instant data. It's called Insight, where you can see where your kids are struggling. And it's like a coordinate grid type plane where it has the 4 coordinates where your high activity is, your low activity. Right now, when I show you my screen, it's only showing my kids how many hours we spent, and it's giving percentages. But once they take their first quiz, because right now they have their tasks, and then I'm about to assign their quiz for them next week, then I'll begin to see some things. I gave you an example of my fraction game board. If you like game boards, I gave you an example of what that is, as well as the Edulastic resource page that tells you step by step. It's a little bit more in depth on how to set up the Edulastic. Then the video, and then if you're really intrigued about creating game boards, I also gave you a link to a woman who talked about creating game boards. The biggest thing is make it fun for your students. And this is a great addition. I will highly recommend you use it. And so the biggest thing I said, this is my live game choice board, not choice board, I'm sorry, playlist right now. And as you can see, all we can see right now is the hours on my kids spent. But if I went to real quick, just my playlist, and I'm editing it, which you saw me today, it's like I've been creating things where this is the Snap Quiz that Tracy has showed. But then within my quiz alone, I've been using like a creative way just so my kids can check their answers. There's a video they have to watch, and then there's several questions, and they go to the next thing. And it's been very helpful for my students, where this is why I added a notes page where I gave my kids some notes. I've created these questions, took some time to create these little drag and drop features for them. So it's different things you can do within Edulastic that enhances it. And the playlist to me really gets you into playing around with this and then making it like really Edulastic really pop. I've loved Edulastic. I've been using it for 4 years now, but this feature to me has really made this platform explode for me. So that's it.
Thank you, Latasha. That was amazing. And yeah, like Latasha said, we will be sharing out the slides, so you will have access to that video. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to move towards our Q&A section of today's webinar. So if Tracy, Allison, and Latasha, if you all could turn on your cameras and your microphone, we will go ahead and dive into some of these questions. Let me turn on my video as well. All righty, so our first question is for Tracy. Earlier you showed a question that had a cone or a sphere in it. Somebody was wondering, where did you get that image? Do you find them on Edulastic, or do you import them from an outside source?
So I'll go into Microsoft Publisher and create them using the shape tools. And then with those shape tools, you can go into the settings of the shape tools and make them 3D, add color to them, and make them, different sizes so that they look different. But yeah, every one of those images I did in Microsoft Publisher.
Great, thanks, Tracy. Our next question is for all three of you. So I know, Allison, you talked specifically about how you get your questions from the item bank. So actually, I guess this question is better for Tracy and Latasha. Where do you find your questions? Do you always write your own, or do you pull from the item bank?
All of the above. I use the item bank. That's where I started until I decided, okay, I just couldn't find a particular question that worked for me in the item bank. And then I decided I wanted to try out the dynamic to get that extra richness of the questions that I didn't have.
Thanks, Tracy.
I'll do a combination of both. With the playlist, I've really been, we use a lot of Greg Tang strategies, and I mean, the way we teach math to fifth graders is uniquely different. So at times I found myself creating more problems that I've authored for myself. So I've been doing more creating this year than in past years where I've just kind of used the item bank. So like it's like someone said, I love Greg Tang. Me too. So I've been just kind of been using his stuff and my stuff and merging it within Edulastic.
Great, thanks, Latasha. Next question is for any of you, whoever wants to take this. How do you put notes or videos next to, but separate from your questions? So, you know, when there's a video on the left side of the screen and the question on the right side of the screen, how do you do that?
That's a great question. So what you essentially do, what I showed you is that I created a multi-part question. And then so the first part I add whatever video or screen. I don't know if I have time to share my screen to show them real quick.
Yeah, go for it. That's fine.
Real quick. And then what I do is so if I was going to test, let me go real quick, test, new question, not new test, sorry. Item bank, new item. So you select multi-part and then I click combination multi-part. And then you just click your first part. If you wanted, like, they have this, this is so dope. Like, it's changed so much. I'm amazed. But you click instructions and I add a video here. And if it's not a video, I'll add text and you can upload a text. So with the one I showed you, I just uploaded that picture of that, those notes. But the other one, so you do that and you preview it and then you save it. And then once you save, let's see if I can do this real quick. If I can upload something real quick. It previews and now save. Then you just had another part, and then I always go to math because that's what that's what we teach. And so, and here you'll add your question. I'll just put math real quick. Your answer will be A, and I'll save it. When you want to have it side screen, you simply go to layout and you just choose your layout, and it kind of lays it out for you that way. And what I've learned is if you want each question, if you want to add multiple questions, then you click, you don't click that, I'm sorry, you just begin to add another part and it'll just add along the right side while the video or the notes are on the left side.
Great, thank you so much, Latasha. Let me go back and share my screen. One moment
and also
here.
The ones that I did in the dynamic is there's a hint. So you actually click on the hint and you can add hints and then you can embed the link, the URL to the video if it's an outside video as under the hint box.
Awesome, thank you, Tracy. Latasha, I have one other question for you that's about playlists. It's from Holly. She says, do the playlists give feedback to the students on correct answers? And does the teacher see data on student accuracy or just time spent on the playlist?
No, you see, because it's an assessment you already created, you still get that information based, you still get the live classroom board that I think Tracy was showing, you still get that live board if you go directly to the actual assessment. And it does. So like you can create, what I do with the playlist, the assignments I create are practice. So I give them 3 at-bats to do it. And I let the scores release to them and just what they got wrong because I want them to retake it. And then what I've added for my kids is that if they want to check as they go, I have 10-year-olds, they want to make sure they're right at every step. They're kind of at your hip. So I add the feature where I allow them to check their answer. So like to check their answer as they go, so they can make sure they're getting it correct before they send it and submit it.
Yeah, the check answer, they love that too. So if it was a difficult question where they're having to calculate, they have a little button at the top of their screen where you set it up in your settings and they can click check, and you can set a number of times. So you can let them check it 2 times or you can let them check it 10 times. And just depends on, what you want to set as a teacher. And they love that as well. They love having that option.
Awesome. Our next question, Latasha, I'm actually wondering if you want to share your screen again. Somebody is wondering, where do we find the playlist feature?
Oh, okay, yeah, I can show my screen. And this is where I got stuck. That's what I said. It took me 3 months to figure it out. So right here under your Edulastic dashboard, there's 2 ways to get to it. If you want to create a playlist, you go under library and click playlists. Now this is authored by me, but they actually have a couple. And so then it's right here, you do a new playlist. Once your playlist is created, how I went in and edit my playlist, I go to my playlist and then it takes me automatically to the recent one I have. But if I hit switch, it'll take me to the other ones that I've created. And right now, like I said, you can go in and still edit within the playlist. So I could still, like what I did is I added modules. If I want to add custom content, I could slide some more stuff in here. So I think it's really cool how Edulastic coded this, where you can add to it as opposed to it being locked like an assessment once you publish it.
Great, thank you, Latasha. Definitely appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to take back over screen share. Thanks everybody for your patience as we toggle back and forth. Alrighty, our next question, we'll start with Allison. We have several new teachers online today. And so with that, it's always great to give some tips for new teachers. So if you were a brand new teacher just exploring Edulastic, what tips would you give? Where would you start?
First of all, welcome, and hopefully you are staying in teaching after this crazy year. Like, mad props to you all for making it. I would say literally just take time, like play with it, play with your kids, like see what works very well for you. I mean, for me, it was like, just pick an assessment and use what's there already. And then once I realized like just the basics of running an assessment, then I started playing with how do I create my own assessment? And then once I did that, I just like went down the rabbit hole with like, now let me make some questions. Now let me figure out how to do snap quiz. And now like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, let me figure out those dynamic questions. So I would just say, find a starting point, like find somewhere to jump off and just get started and dive in. And then from there, I would just practice, and try new things every day. You don't have to do it all at once, but pick one thing. Like every time you give an assessment, pick one thing new to try, like write your own question once, or make it a time test once. Whatever is helpful for you, take some of these tips and just add one new thing every time so that it's not so overwhelming.
Thanks, Allison. Those are really good tips. Tracy, what about you? Do you have any other tips for new teachers who are brand new to Edulastic?
Well, since I was brand new last year, it was using the test bank, pulling the standards, searching. You can search by grade level, by standard, you can search by description, and just using the questions that are in the test bank already. I started out small. I would do it like bell work, pick 2 or 3 questions to give them as they came in the room to check it out, to see how they did. And then I just started building from there. I went from giving them 2 to 3 questions at a time to then start giving them a whole quiz from there using the data bank. So this year's the first year that I've started using the dynamic and the snap quiz. So just like Allison said, just adding something new, trying something new each time. I've played around with the playlist, but I haven't got to that point yet because it's a building process and there's a lot of steps to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy. And Latasha, what about you?
I would echo everything Tracy and Allison said. Like I started small. I'm kind of one who like dives in. I started with literally the day one with exit tickets. And then I was like, well, we're going to do this. So we're going to do all assessments online. And so I kind of just went from there. I heavily used other people's questions. I know somebody said, should I feel guilty if I use other people's tests? No, don't feel guilty at all. Edulastic has updated it, like where you can use certified questions, like questions that are really good. So I would say 90% of my test quizzes, my first 2 years using it, was other questions people use because I just use that question bank. Sometimes I would pull somebody's quiz and like, this is great, I'm going to use it. So I would not feel guilty at all. 2 years ago, I just started using when we switched math, direction of math, I started having to create my own stuff. But just like Allison said, it's just so much there, just start small. Like Tracy said, like I said, the playlist was a beast for me to whittle down. But once I got it, I was like, oh, this is fun. So and my kids, and they like it. They like having the check at their own pace. And so they enjoy it. It's better than we use quizzes. Kahoot, they like it better than most of the other systems I use. They actually prefer the Edulastic playlist.
I've had kids last week, just like when I gave them one of those activities where they could check their own answer and they could see their progress up on my screen, they were excited and they were like leaving my room saying, we had fun in math, it was fun in there today. And they see it as a challenge with each other too. They compete with each other to get them done first and to get the right answer. And then when, they'll even use it as a competition. And no, I'm not giving you that answer. And, so it's kind of fun to watch them get excited about it. And it's just a simple thing, they're still doing math. And also I don't have to grade everything. I'm at one point I was dealing with 100 virtual students online and I had another 70 in the building. So I was teaching, I've been teaching virtual and face-to-face all year. And I was like, I can't grade that many papers. I can't, so I had to come up with a way to where most of their work grades itself. And then all I have to do is look at the data.
And the great thing, I want to sign in real quick. The great thing that Edulastic added this year, because I'm a big component of retaking something until you get 80% or higher, there is the feature they added. And I was like, this is amazing. I don't have to recreate a quiz or clone a quiz anymore. You can have it open multiple times up to how many times they can retake it. So I have kids who will get below that 80% and retake it again after they just finished taking it. They really want to work towards that score. It like for 10-year-olds, it drives them. They're like, they want that score. So it's
Yeah.
just, it's a cool feature.
And to piggyback off of that, Miss Latasha, I'm just like you. I was like back here like, yes, like save all your time with the grades, Miss Tracy. And then the redirect is like my favorite feature. And what's great about Edulastic 2 is that you have the option to either just share their score and their answers, or share scores, answers, and correct answers. And so when my kids go in to do their correct answers, they like know what they're supposed to do. They know, okay, I know what the correct answer is. I can work towards this, or I can make them work until they do figure it out on their own. So I love being able to be flexible with all of those different options.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you all for your insight on that. Alrighty, at this time, we are going to move on from our Q&A section. Thank you to Tracy, Latasha, and Allison for answering those questions. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. So as promised, we are going to give away 3 subscriptions to Spark Math because there are quite a few people online today. So our 3 winners, congratulations to Myra Flores Cato. That's our first winner. Our second winner is Jolene Perkins. And our third winner is Denise Timberman. So congratulations to Myra, Jolene, and Denise. And thank you everybody for being here live. Definitely appreciate it. I will be in touch with Myra, Jolene, and Denise with your details on how to get you upgraded to Spark Math. Okay, and then I lastly just wanted to say thank you everybody for joining us today. Like our panelists all said, this is a very busy time of year and we totally know that. This is a great webinar and I'm really thankful for Latasha, Allison, and Tracy for your wonderful presentations. Edulastic is really active on social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So give us a follow to hear other tips and connect with our panelists on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn too. I'm sure they would love to be in touch with all of you.